Welcome back to the daily Rambam class. We have begun over the last 3 days a brand new book number 6. Let us take a moment, as we usually do on a Thursday, to see where we are up to in the Rambam at large, and then we will take a look at today's chapter, quite an interesting chapter. Where are we up to? As mentioned multiple times, the Rambam has how many volumes? 14 volumes of the Rambam, and we are now already in volume 6. Could you believe it? The Rambam's work covers every single subject in Jewish law, even beyond what's discussed in the Gemara. I can't say it includes every argument to the Gemara because it doesn't, but the bottom line conclusion of every discussion in the Gemara is discussed in the Rambam, and with the help of Hashem and your determination, Baruch Hashem, we have already begun the 6th book, which is quite a small book, which is called Sefer Hafla'ah. Hafla'ah is a hard word to translate. I see we have translated it as promises, but I'm not sure if that's the best translation. And this 6th volume has 4 sections. We will learn about Shvuos, which are oaths. Then we'll learn about Nadarim, which are oaths to do, meaning a person takes an oath of commitment, either on a particular article, which would be Nadava, or that he will give something, which would be a Neder. Then we have a Nazirus, the laws of the Nazarite. That's a type of oath. He swears to treat himself differently, to not drink wine, grow his hair. We'll learn more about that in about 3 weeks' time. And finally, Arachim and Charabim, temple gifts. If a person makes a donation to the Beis HaMikdash, how does that work? Where does the donation go? How does the article become holy? That is what we will be covering in book number 6. The Rambam chooses a pasuk from Tehillim, again, Kuf Yutes, chapter 119. Nidvais pi, Retzeina Hashem, or Mishpatecha Lamdeini. The nidvais pi, the free will offerings of my mouth, accept now Hashem, and teach me your judgment. So this is about mitzvahs that we achieve with our mouth. Most of the mitzvahs are action-based, because the neshama comes down into this world in order to bring Hashem into the world, and the way that we bring Hashem into the world most is through an action. But the Gemara says that moving of the lips, speech, is also considered an action. It's called a small action, milsa zuta. It's a small action, but an action nonetheless. There are halachic consequences for that. And so over the next 3 weeks, we will be covering the mitzvahs that we achieve with our mouth. So we are now in the section of Shavuos, of different oaths. Let's take a look at where we are up to. So there are 12 chapters. Here's an overview of what's coming our way over the next week or so. On Tuesday, we learned about the 4 types of oaths. Yesterday, we learned about how to make an oath. Today, we will learn about invalid oaths. Different wording tomorrow. And then over the next week, we'll speak about 4 types of oaths. A Shvuos Pitoi, a Shvuos Shav, which are kind of oaths saying that something is what it's not. We'll learn about the difference between the two on Motzei Shabbos, and then how to annul an oath, the other 2 types of oaths, and finally how important it is to be careful about the oaths that we take. But now for today, let's take a look at invalid oaths. Whenever a person takes one of these 4 types of oaths under compulsion, he's exempt from all liability. Okay. This applies both to a person who at the outset took a false oath because of factors beyond his control, as we explained. One who took an oath and then was subjected to compulsion and was not given the opportunity to fulfill his oath. Or he was compelled to take an oath by force. Therefore, one may take an oath when compelled to by robbers, potential murderers, and tax collectors, as we will discuss. So there are 2 ways that a person can be forced to take an oath or to not keep to an oath Either, if God forbid he's held at gunpoint and the person says, show me the safe. I don't have a safe. Swear to me that if you do have a safe, then you will never step into the synagogue again. I know that taking an oath is a very serious thing, and so if a person was under coercion to take such an oath, as we'll learn soon, such an oath is not binding. Or alternatively, if a person took an oath to do something and then was forced not to do it, so a person took an oath, he said that I take an oath that I will go to shul this afternoon, and then unfortunately the shul is closed or the roads are blocked, something completely beyond his control. So those are the two types of scenarios where the oath is biblically not binding. He is exempt from all liability. It is not considered, if he violates this oath, it is not considered a scriptural violation. The rabbis will give us a little gimmick, a little solution to help the person not be violating this oath, as we will learn soon. Okay, so we gave 3 different examples. We said a person may have been forced by robbers or by potential murderers, and tax collectors. Now, tax collectors, that's an interesting one, right? People sometimes think they can have 2 sets of books. They can have books for the law, for taxes, and then they can have other books. Is it okay to have 2 sets of books? Absolutely not. The person needs to follow the law of the land. So why does he say over here that an oath taken for a tax collector is not binding? Surely it should be binding. I swear that this is all the money I've made this year. Oh, that's okay. It's not binding. Well, let's see. Let's see how it works. Let's see if it is in fact not binding or it is binding. Halacha number 2 says, to which a tax collector do we refer? To a tax collector that assumed the position on his own. He woke up one morning and he said, okay, guys, I'm collecting your tax. And if you don't give it to me, then I'll make you swear. Or other ways that he'll enforce. He's taking the money without the license of the king. That's the second scenario. So he hasn't been licensed to collect tax. Or he takes money with the king's license, but takes more for himself than the fixed measure, as explained in Hilchos Gzeila. So he does actually have a legal, he has the authority to be collecting taxes, but unfortunately there is corruption over here where he is collecting more taxes than he has authority to collect. So these 3 scenarios, if a person is not authorized by the government, or he's just made himself into his own king, he said, okay guys, I'm your boss. Or in the third scenario, if he is taking more taxes than the law requires, then if a person were to make such an oath to such a person, it would not be binding. Okay, so now the rabbis say that, yes, biblically speaking, if you are forced to take an oath, it's not binding, but we don't want you, even so, to be violating your word. So this is what we suggest you do, or this is what you need to do. The person taking that oath under coercion needs to have the intent that the oath applies to something which he can keep. Okay, so let's give an example. He'll say in the next chapter, the next halacha, an example. So, in other words, I guess let's take a look at 4 and then we'll come back to the end of 3. What is implied? The person took an oath to a man of force that he would not eat meat. That's it. The guy said, if you don't give me the money or if you don't tell me where that safe is, take an oath that you'll never have a steak again in your life. Or, yeah. So what he should do is, he should think in his heart that when he said, I won't have a steak, I won't have a pig steak, I won't have a piece of pork steak, I won't have a piece of non-kosher steak. If that's what he had in mind, then his thoughts qualify his words. Now, how is it possible for a person's thoughts to qualify their words? You say what you say, and what you didn't say, you didn't say. How could you say, I said this, but I meant that? Usually that doesn't work. But in this scenario, since he cannot express his intent because of the forces beyond his control, he can rely on the intent of his heart. So although he makes an oath that I will not eat steak, I will not eat meat, in his mind, he knows that he means he won't eat pork steak. And he can't say it because he's being forced not to. But at least when he actually took that oath, in such a scenario, we will consider the oath as if it was only an oath taken against something that he indeed won't be eating. And that way, although biblically speaking, the oath either way is not binding, beyond that, he doesn't need to feel like he's violating an oath in any way because his intention directed the oath to something that he actually won't be violating. Similarly, one is not liable for oaths involving exaggerations or unintentional oaths. This unintentional oaths is an interesting one. Let's first talk about exaggeration. The person saw vast armies and tall walls and took an oath saying, I swear to you, I saw the armies of King so-and-so, and they were like the Jewish people that left Egypt. Now, how many Jews left Egypt? 600,000 men between the ages of 20 and 60. We're talking about over 2 million people. So obviously, he doesn't mean he saw an army of 2 million people. It's an exaggeration. Or, I saw the wall of this in the city, and it was as high as the heavens, or the like. He is exempt because he did not resolve within his heart that this was the measure of the subject in question. When he said it, he didn't mean that there actually were 2 million soldiers, or that the scraper actually reaches Mars. Rather, he means that it was extremely high, or really a lot of people. What is meant by an oath taken inadvertently? Shgaga. So, with regards to a Shvuos Chapter and a Shvuos Chapter, 2 days ago you learned about the 4 types of oaths. So if it's an oath regarding he swore that he doesn't have an article, or he swore that he doesn't know testimony, so it could be that he forgot. He said, I swear that I don't have it, and he didn't realize that he does have it. He actually forgot. Or he completely forgot that he actually does have testimony to share. So in these scenarios, he wouldn't even need to bring an offering. He's entirely exempt. He has not sinned at all. With regard to an oath taken in vain, so Shvuas Shav, it refers to a situation where the person took an oath not to wear tefillin, but he actually didn't know that tefillin are a mitzvah. So you stop the guy, you're doing the tefillin campaign to help the Jews in Israel. You stop a soldier to say, Achi, brother, Nataniach tefillin, put on tefillin. He says, I swear I'm never going to put on tefillin. So, 1 second, Rega, it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. Okay, in that case, the person didn't realize it was a mitzvah, then that oath won't be binding. You can say, I can't do it. I just took an oath and I'll never do it. It's okay. You didn't realize that it was a mitzvah. A false oath that would not be binding refers to a situation where the person took an oath and that he did not eat, and then he remembered that he did eat. So he said, I swear I didn't eat, and he did. He took an oath that he would not eat, and he forgot and he ate. He took an oath that he would not give any satisfaction to his wife because she stole his wallet or beat his son, and afterwards he found out that she did not steal it, and she did not beat him. Similar concepts apply in all analogous situations. So these are all examples where a person would not need to bring an offering. He is completely exempt. So then, so this is called, what did he translate it as? Inadvertent. Meaning he actually didn't realize what was going on. He didn't realize the situation. Now we know that there's a concept called shogeg in the Torah. When a person makes a mistake, there's a scenario where they do need to bring an offering. So what would be a scenario of a mistake where a person does need to bring an offering with regards to oaths? So if so, what is the Shvuos Chapter taken inadvertently for which one is liable to bring an adjustable gift offering with regards to the past? One took an oath that he did not eat, although he knew that he did eat, but he didn't know he's not allowed to take oaths. Okay, I was just joking. I wasn't joking. I was saying I lied, but okay. I didn't actually do anything wrong. Well, you did. And you're going to have to bring an offering. So that's a mistake. The mistake is, I guess maybe the distinction we're making is between inadvertent and a mistake. The inadvertent was where he actually didn't realize what was happening. Mistake is where he knew what he was doing, but he didn't realize that it was wrong. Or he knew he's not more than that. Sorry, he had to have known that he's not allowed to take an oath, but he didn't realize that there are consequences, that he'd have to bring an offering. So then we'd say you have to bring an offering. This is the inadvertent violation for which one is liable to bring an adjustable gift offering for taking a Shvuos Chapter, one of the 4 types of oaths regarding the past. What would be an inadvertent violation for which a person needs to bring an offering regarding an oath involving the future? And took an oath that he would not eat bread from wheat, and he forgot, and thought that the oath that he took was that he would eat bread from wheat. So he knew he took an oath, but he forgot the details of the oath. He became unaware of the content of the oath, although he remembered the article concerning which he took the oath. So he knew it was for bread, but he thought the oath was that he will eat it, and he wasn't, or vice versa. This is an advertent violation of Shvuos Chapter involving the future, which obligates him to bring a sacrifice. If, however, he took an oath that he would not eat bread from wheat, and he ate bread from wheat thinking that it was made of barley, then that would be considered out of his control, and he would not have to bring an offering. For he did not become unaware of the oath, but instead of the article concerning which he took the oath. This is a little bit complicated, but the idea is that when making a mistake with oaths, the mistake needs to kind of involve details of the significance of his wording, not that he actually didn't know what was going on. If he lost awareness of the oath he took, and he lost awareness of the article concerning which he took the oath, he would not have to bring an offering. What is implied? For example, one took an oath that he would not eat bread from wheat and thought he had taken an oath. Did we just do this? That he would eat bread from wheat and ate bread from wheat thinking it was barley. He is not liable, though he didn't do this yet. So because he became unaware of both the oath and the article. So you need to be aware of the article and of somewhat of the oath in order for him to be liable. It's considered as if it was beyond his control. The following would also apply if a person took an oath concerning a loaf of bread, swearing that he would not eat it. And then he suffered discomfort because of it. If he ends up eating the loaf because of his discomfort, because he thought that it would be permitted because of the discomfort, meaning he made a mistake and he thought that the oath would not be binding in a case of discomfort, so then he would be considered to have transgressed he does not have to bring an offering. He didn't realize it was a sin. Not that he knew it was wrong and he didn't know he'd have to bring an offering, he actually didn't realize it was wrong. He thought oaths are only binding as long as there's no discomfort. He is not repenting because of his new knowledge. Instead, he knew that it was forbidden and ate it in error. So these are a lot of principles about when an offering needs to be brought for an inadvertent oath and when it doesn't. A little bit hard to, maybe it would require some further analysis. There's a whole Gemara, a whole tractate of 49, or I should say 48 pages, just dedicated to Shvuos, and another whole tractate dedicated to the Nedarim. So really there are a lot of discussions that surround different scenarios of oaths and when a person wouldn't be punished. But I think what's most important, or I don't know, everything's important. The takeaway, perhaps, practical takeaway of today's Rambam would be that it's important to realize that if a person is forced to take an oath, the oath is not binding. So, if a child is told that he should swear that he's not going to tell anybody. Now, we all know that if a child swears to somebody that he won't tell anybody, obviously that's not binding. It's not considered sinful for him to tell. Unfortunately, everybody knows except for the child. The child, unfortunately, thinks if he took an oath, if he promised he won't say, he can't say. But chapter 3 of the Rambam teaches us, and we should teach our children, that although generally when you make a promise, when you take an oath, you have to keep to what you say. If it's done out of coercion, that oath is halachically not binding. It is clearly in the Rambam, it's clearly in the Torah, and therefore there is absolutely nothing wrong with not keeping to a commitment that was taken under force. And on the contrary, such information should be shared so that the person can be cared for in the